this Trump administration understands that if you give this money back to folks, right, the people who are really on the front lines, that's the best thing for the economy and for our country.
You know, Alfredo, the talking points of folks on the other side of this issue now seems to be, oh, well, this was all going to happen anyway because President Obama had everything set up and all that needed to happen was time. And this new administration isn't doing so much more to move things forward. And I say, no. I don't think that's it at all. I mean, yes, things were improving, but it was the slowest recovery following a recession or depression in our nation's history. And Alfredo, hasn't this administration done so much more to put the economy on steroids to get it to this point?
I mean, it really has. And, you know, just kind of focusing a little bit more on the small business aspects of our economy, again, just given the importance and the size of it. We did another poll among small business owners that asked the question when they were, you know, the Obama administration was still around just a couple of years ago. We asked the question, why are you not growing? What's holding you back? They came back with three things. One was overregulation, basically too much red tape. We all hate red tape, right? There's a lot of it out there. Taxes were too high. And frankly, they didn't have access to credit because of Dodd-Frank and the effective elimination of community banks. I mean, all that ended up happening because Dodd-Frank, the big banks actually got bigger.
Yes.
And our poor community banks basically closed up shop, which impacted small businesses owners in rural and urban areas across the country. And this Trump administration, I say, is like the trifecta of fixes for small businesses because it has hit on every single one. Regulations, for example. Tim, I think you're very well aware of this. I mean, Trump had promised 2-to-1, basically, for every regulation introduced, he's going to remove 2. 22 regulations have been removed for every one. I mean, that's unbelievable. We know what's happened on the tax code both for small, medium, and large companies. They got, you know, more of their money back, which means investing back into the economy, investing back into jobs, back into the businesses. And then now, fortunately, you know, the Senate passed a fix to the Dodd-Frank to try to relieve some of the, you know, the harm and the onerous regulation on our community banks. And it looks like the House, I just read that Paul Ryan announced that the other day, is going to be taking up that bill and looks to be passing it sometime before summer. So we have the fix of all three different elements already in such a short amount of time. And so, again, this is going to turbocharge the economy on all levels, whether you're small, medium, or large business. And, Tim, I also have to say, you know, you hear all this bemoaning of corporate tax rates, you know, the cuts to larger corporations. As a small business owner that I was myself, my top customers were all big customers. And when they did well, I did well. It's a simple fact. There's a ripple effect through the economy. So I actually love the fact that big companies are doing better because, I mean, they're going to be looking for more vendors. They're going to look to purchase more from small businesses. And this is all good for everybody.
You know, Alfredo, I think that's definitely something the American people are realizing and understanding. I can tell you it's having an effect on the political culture as well, because right here in Missouri, where I am, Senator Claire McCaskill did not vote for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. In fact, you did a very clever ad Job Creators Network did a few weeks ago, where you showed all the people that voted for the bill on each side of the political spectrum, and the Republican side of the page was filled. And you made the comment that at the Democratic side of the page, you saved a lot of ink because it was completely empty. So, but Claire McCaskill, Alfredo, I don't know if you've seen her comments recently. She's backpedaling on her no vote quite a bit. She's making a lot of comments about, well, you know, I'd love to give a tax break to the working people and on and on and on. She's really making excuses for a poor policy decision, isn't she?
She really is. And unfortunately on this one, this is truly, in this particular case, like our ad, it's black and white. And the ink says it perfectly, right? There wasn't a single Democrat that voted for in the House or in the Senate that voted for that tax cut. And again, I go back to how you opened up the segment, Tim. They're actually promising to repeal and replace effectively. They're not replacing anything. They're just going to repeal it because, you know, they just know that it actually is helping right now, and they don't want that, right? They don't want to show that the ideas of the Trump administration are going to work. And so, again, this is the first time in my lifetime that I've ever seen the Democrats actually promising to actually repeal or to actually raise taxes for folks. Usually they just promise a bunch of great ideas like free college for everybody. They never tell you how they're going to pay for it. We all kind of know how they're going to pay for it. In this particular case, they're just outright saying we're going to cut them.
Yeah, now, Fred, what
we're going to raise them.
Yeah, what do they want with? God forbid, we have Speaker Pelosi again, and that's the first thing she's going to try to do is repeal this tax cut that's really moving the nation forward in so many ways. Wages are rising, unemployment is at historic low levels, as we discussed. There's jobs and careers for everyone available. And she wants to reverse all of that to do what with our tax money, as always the question.
Well, that's the amazing thing, right? They've had how many years to present their plan of how they're actually going to grow the economy. And it was obvious what they were doing. They were basically growing at 1.2, 1.3. To your point, it was the slowest economic recovery in history. And so it's clear right now that what this Trump administration has laid out and the plan and the vision, we're going to be seeing the 3.5%, 4% growth rate. Folks were basically saying, Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. There's no way that's going to happen. And again, the CBO itself has basically raised its rate to 3.3%. And so, we know these are going to work. The one thing, Tim, I'll say is that we need to keep doing more of is on the labor front, because as we start seeing these numbers grow and we start seeing the 4%, we are going to start seeing these unemployment rates continue to dip. And so we're going to need to do more, I think, for this country and for the labor market to, from a skills training standpoint, occupational licensing deregulation, I think would be huge. We need to keep pushing that on the Republican front. I know there's a lot of discussion on the Farm Bill fix and work requirements and stuff like that. But, bottom line, we have to get American workers, back to work. And if they don't have the right skills, we need to work on those skills training. And again, also some deregulatory on occupational licensing, which I know Secretary Acosta and the president are very, very clear in terms of their mission, what they need to do there. So, that is something that, I'd love to see, much more movement on. And frankly, that should be a bipartisan agreement on this kind of stuff. I mean, there should be no Democrat that opposes increased training overall of our labor market.
Well, we definitely need that, Alfredo. We heard that in Waterloo, Iowa, didn't we? The CEO of the carriage company there said, I need a skilled labor force. I'm having trouble. I got to get more workers in here and workers that know how to do things. Alfredo, before we let you go, and we've been speaking with Alfredo Ortiz, who's the CEO of the Job Creators Network, jobcreatorsnetwork.com. Their 2018 project here this year is Tax Cuts Work, taxcutswork.com. Alfredo, what is the charge to the American people as we go forth here into what's going to be a very exciting year, both for public policy and politics? What can people do to make sure to help you in the Job Creators mission of keeping Congress's hands off the tax cut?
Well, Tim, thanks for asking that question. What we need is for the American public to speak to us through taxcutswork.com. Tell us your stories. Tell us how your tax cuts are actually. We actually have hundreds and hundreds of stories really coming in now through taxcutswork.com, telling about the stories. I mean, we have one, and we actually had a stop in Wakanda, Illinois, that came from this, where it's a $3.5 million manufacturing company, putting a $500,000 piece of equipment in there to grow it. They opened up a sales office in California, added a couple more people. They're growing. Right? We need to keep hearing these stories because they're not being told. And yes, we're hearing a lot about these great, larger corporations and what they're doing with bonuses and hiring. But the small business owners are doing this across the board. They just, nobody really is hearing about it. And so that's why we're asking folks to reach out through taxcutswork.com. Please tell us your stories. We can't do this without that help because this is the only way that we can collect them. In some cases, we may reach out to folks and with some of these great stories and see if they're interested in telling more. In some cases, again, they're even interested in getting videotaped and us even maybe even going on location and talking about the success of their company. This is the time to be proud about this country again and all the fine work that our small business owners are doing to invest back in the country. So we need America's help to do this and to make sure that we don't get a tax increase with Speaker Pelosi because that's the last thing this country needs at this point. It's rocking and rolling, and we just need to keep this momentum going.
Amen to that. Folks, go to taxcutswork.com. Check your savings, tell your story, sign the letter to Congress, tell them to keep their hands off your tax cut. Alfredo Ortiz, the CEO of the Job Creators Network,